Hey guys, another video for our Buying a House in Japan playlist. This is the south wall of the main building at the old Japanese farmhouse. Some of you might have seen this wall 10 years ago when we painted it and put that silver roof on. So it's held up pretty well, but it's the south wall, so it gets sun from sunrise through to mid-afternoon. So it's really starting to get punished there after 10 years. So we happen to have a container of dark brown paint. We keep it in those containers instead of in the old paint cans. Paint cans are a pain, aren't they? We just can't seem to work with those things. So any paint that's left over from jobs we put in plastic containers like that. And then we're feeding it through a strainer. So the unskilled labourer can use a spray gun to spray it. So the main concern, that upright wall is corrugated tin. But the main concern is that wood, that fascia wood that you can see there, because if that deteriorates, there's mud directly behind that with tiles sitting on top, and we see it all the time with old buildings. If that fascia deteriorates, then the mud underneath gets wet, and then the tiles start to come loose, and then the wood underneath the mud gets wet, and that starts to fall apart, and then slowly roofs collapse, and we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen in our neighbourhood where old houses that are just left for years, and slowly that happens and then the roofs start to collapse. And once that happens, the water gets in the walls, which are also made of mud. So as long as you can maintain the integrity, these things will last forever. But if the water starts to get in, because all the mud under the tiles and the mud in the walls and all the wood underneath the tiles and in the mud, if the water starts to get in, it'll be game over. So it's really important. The only people that can actually see this wall are the neighbours on that side. So this is purely for maintenance reasons that we're doing this. So the silver tin that you can see, some of you might have seen us put that roof on 10 years ago. So that tin was new. The vertical tin there obviously wasn't, it was really old, but the silver tin was new, and we put it on and painted it. And it's lasted really well. 10 years later, it doesn't need any attention at all. It's still perfect, but it's really thin. It's about 0.5 millimetre or something. It's really, really thin. So if that fat, unskilled labourer walks on it, it'll just put big dents. Every step would put a dent in it. So sort of thought about this, like with all these jobs, we always put lots of thought into these jobs before we do them. And thought about maybe some wood with some rubber underneath, and trying to think of different ways to spread the weight so that it wouldn't damage the silver roof getting on top of it like this. And then remembered these two big pieces of polystyrene, and it's just perfect. It was just a perfect solution. It was so simple. They're light, they're easy to move, and they spread the weight. So instead of all the weight going onto one foot and just bending the tin underneath, it spreads the weight out over a decent area there, and just did no damage at all. Not one dent in the roof with that big fat guy climbing all over it. So very happy with that result. And again, the silver roof's perfect, doesn't need any attention. So did a really thorough job of that fascia, because that's the most important bit, and the tin too while we're at it. And then this silver wall here, you can see a bit of rust starting to appear. So while we're on this side of the house doing some work, we're actually standing in the neighbour's garden there, the back of the neighbour's house, where they grow their veggies. So the unskilled labourer cracked out the old long-handled roller, and the special roller for the end of it is actually, it's not a cylinder, it's actually lumpy, and it's got the curves on it, the same curves as this corrugate. So you might have seen it in a video we did years ago. We had to do the same job, the roof of the shed out the back, and it's specially designed for painting corrugated iron, or corrugated tin in this case, and it works pretty well. Still hard work though, it's tricky there. It's just a little bit close to the boundary, and it gets closer. The house, that building isn't actually parallel with this wall, so as you come along towards the camera, it gets narrower and more difficult. So at first, being on that side of the wall was the best way to do it, and then slowly it got tighter and less practical. So again, there's only the people that live on that side of the wall that see this side of the building, but this is just maintenance because we just don't want rust, and we don't want water getting in the building. And we happen to have the silver paint was left over from the roof of the shed out the back, and the brown paint was left over from another wall we did somewhere else. So this job cost, the cost of the roller, which was about $15, the special roller. And that was it. That's horrible paint, that one. It's the brown paint was used up the top is water based, and it's not too bad. This is oil based, has to be cleaned up with turpentine, and it's just got a serious smell to it, and it's just horrible. You know, turpentine based paint, you get it on you, it's a pain anyway. And we're putting it on pretty thickly there. You can see it, sometimes you'll see it sort of running down the wall because we're putting it on really thickly. And it is fairly runny paint anyway. But doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if there's some runs in it. Just want it on really thickly. And it works because that was the strategy we used with that new roof. And it's lasted 10 years and needs no work at all done to it. So the strategy works. So recently we did an air conditioning job, and you saw the guy that installed the aircon just wrap tape around the pipes and the electrical, and that usually works pretty well, but this being the south wall, it's been really punished. So redid that tape just straight over the top of his tape, just put another layer over the top, tidy it up, and then painted it silver with that silver paint, the reflective paint. Probably get a few years out of that, but if we have to redo it in the future, won't matter. That's the back of the well, guys. If you haven't seen it already, go to our channel page and search well. We've got videos of that well. It's in the workshop, and we actually dropped a camera down into the well once years ago. So here's the before and after shot. So yeah, if you haven't seen the inside the well video, have a look at that. It's pretty cool. So that's what it looked like first. You can see that timber, you know, if you left that for another few years, it was already starting to deteriorate. So it was painted, we painted it 10 years ago, painted again now. Can't sort of see it, can you? Because it's so dark. That worked. And that other one to the left there, that's better too. And then all the silver. And the aircon outlet. So I won't have to come around this side of the house again for another 10 years now. We probably still will be here in 10 years' time. We'll see what happens. But we do like it here. It's a good place. Anyway, there was that. More videos coming soon.